Learning to code could feel like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But what if I told you there was a better way? Have you been stuck in tutorial hell? Stuck between programming language, which one to choose? Or just trying to find a productive way to learn coding? You found the right video. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the best ways to start learning to code efficiently and effectively. Let's go ahead and get into it. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Zazo. I've been coding for about 10 years and I've been in the tech industry for about 8 years, holding different positions from software engineer all the way to multiple different positions in data analytics. So learning to code is a very maze-like thing. And let's go over the reason why. Learning to code is a specific skill set that really forces you to understand why and understand the problem that you're actually solving. This is why it may seem, or this is why it is so difficult to actually learn. So the first thing we're going to get into is the wrong way to learn code, because a lot of beginners actually fall into these traps. So if you are reading a book to learn coding, stop it and get some help. Honestly, reading a book to learn to code is kind of like watching somebody play basketball and then just trying to play basketball and never playing basketball once in your life. You actually have to do the thing. All right, so if you're just sitting there watching tutorials without coding, reading books without coding, you're not gonna get anywhere. You're gonna feel productive, because it does feel productive to kind of say, oh yes, I'm learning this information. And this has worked for maybe a lot of other things, like if you are doing literature or anything like that, right? The reason why it works is because you're not solving a problem. You're literally listening to a story and you're able to kind of piece things together and listen to that story and kind of remember the plot, the climax, and all those different things. Programming is not the same as any of these other subjects. It's very easy to kind of just sit there and kind of learn and remember a story. It's the same thing as a movie, right? You remember the movie because you're going through all the different steps, the plot, the climax, and then you have, the conclusion, all those types of things. It's very easy to follow. Programming should not be learned in the same way, because the main way that you learn to program is actually by doing, right? So that is the first thing of what you should not be doing if you actually want to be productive in learning to code. The next thing, jumping between languages and frameworks. One day you're learning Python, the next week you're learning JavaScript, and then after that you want to try Rust, right? Stop doing that, all right? I have been there and I have done the same thing. And I've been coding for 10 years, but I wasted a lot of those years just doing these exact things. This is why I'm telling you this, because this can really hinder your coding journey. So stop jumping from language to language. Pick one language, build mastery in that language, get a very deep understanding of that language before ever trying to move on to another. The next thing is, I know what you're doing, kind of like I said in the first one. You're sitting there and you're looking at a book or a tutorial and you're trying to memorize that syntax. Stop trying to memorize syntax. That's not how you learn. That is not how you learn to code. Memorizing syntax will not do anything except for remembering where a semicolon goes, which is not the important part of programming. Remember, programming is simply solving problems. Keyword there is solving problems. So with coding, when you're learning to code, you always want to be thinking about what problems could I solve with whatever you are learning. If it's variables, what problems could I solve with variables? Loops, conditionals, functions, things like that. What problem am I actually solving? Right? So no experienced programmer just remembers a bunch of functions and different syntax off the dome. Honestly, we're always referring to documentation, different materials, and Googling, and even using ChatGPT here and there to kind of, find some of these syntax errors we may be making. But we are not just memorizing syntax. We are solving problems. The syntax and the actual code and the way it's written, those things come secondary. We are solving problems using the tool of code, and all the different nuances with code. We are figuring that out as we go as well. Of course, we have some knowledge, we kind of know where to go when, but we do not memorize syntax. The last, but probably the most important one is, A lot of you beginners might be looking for the most optimal way from the start to learn programming. I'm going to tell you why that can be dangerous, right? Because you're skipping steps to be more efficient, but sometimes those steps, even though they are small, are important because they may be foundational steps in your learning journey. So look, everybody wants to be more efficient, but if you're constantly looking for the best way before even understanding the basics, right? So if you're trying to learn because you've been on YouTube, you've been everywhere, and you're trying to learn all these different complex, concepts and things like that, and trying to write super clean code from the beginning, then you're just procrastinating in disguise because you're not going to know how to do it. You're going to sit there and say, well, how can I make this function the most optimal? And you're worried about one function instead of building out real projects and doing real problem solving. You're focusing on the small, when you should be focusing on the bigger concepts and the bigger picture, which is going to be building your project, right? So learning is messy at first, but embrace it and get things to work first, and then you can optimize them later. So now I've told you the wrong way to code, but you may be asking now, what's the right way to code? Let me break that down for you. Lego. So I'm gonna give you the secret sauce, right, for learning to code, and you might not even see it coming. All right, so here's the secret sauce. You ready? Coding, you learn by doing. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. The first thing that I'm gonna recommend is you pick a language and you stick to it. You stick to it like glue, all right? So Python and JavaScript are very good for beginners. You want to master these fundamentals first before you move on. Python and JavaScript, pick one, right? Now, if you know specifically what you want to do, you pick the language that more coincides with that. Recommend Python and JavaScript. These are very popular languages with a bunch of community support. Python can be used for a bunch of different things, from AI, machine learning, data analytics, data science, what other things? Web applications, just scripting, automation. JavaScript can do web, obviously, backend with Node.js. It can do scripting as well. So these are the ones that I normally recommend. If you are going for a more specialized language, you can do that as long as you know why you're doing that. Now, the next thing is actually start with real small projects, right? A to-do list, a calculator, a personal website. These help you reinforce concepts better than just copying a tutorial and just following along with a tutorial. So you want to focus on real world small projects. If you find something in your life that you can solve and it's small, do that. So an example that I did back when I was learning Python specifically, I kept getting, because of my job, my downloads folder, because how we log in remotely, was getting full pretty much on a monthly basis. It was just full of those whatever files, right? So I just literally made a script to go into that folder and delete the files. That's all I did with a press of a button, and I deleted the files. Very small, but very useful for my specific situation. However, you can do different things with moving files. Right now, I wrote a script that actually moves certain files to certain places because of the content creation that I do. So I have certain files going to certain places with a click of a button. Now find what works best for you and what are the pain points in your life, and try to solve that with code. I wouldn't say go too crazy with this, especially if you're just learning, but this is a good way to solve real world problems and do projects for yourself. You're going to be a lot more motivated if the actual problem that you're solving is helping you, right? You have stake in it. Therefore, you're more likely to do it and be motivated to do it. All right. So the next thing is Google is going to be your best friend. Yes, you can use ChatGPT and you can use AI. Just be careful with it. I always say this, be careful. You can get down a slippery slope and just find yourself copying and pasting stuff. You can use the editor, the GitHub Copilots, Claudes. You can use all those within your editor. Just be very careful as far as writing, actual code with it when you're beginning, right? When you got some years in, you got some time in, you've been doing your own thing, that's when you can kind of take advantage of these AI tools because you already know what's going on under the hood. Until you understand what's going on under the hood, I will caution you to be very careful when using these type of tools. But Google is your best friend. Documentation is going to be your best friend. Use it, learn to love it. Let's get on to the next one. So the next one is break down problems step by step. Instead of trying to write the perfect code in one go, because believe me, it is a great way to procrastinate. I've done all of these things, which is why I am telling you to not do them or to do them the right way, right? Solve it in small, manageable pieces and debug it. Debugging is part of the process. Running into errors are what are going to make you a better developer, a better engineer, because that's where the learning happens, all right? So next, this is something I didn't do and I should have done, and now I know that 10 years down the line, right? Join a community. Whether it's Discord, GitHub, any type of coding forum, surround yourself with other learners and developers, and that will keep you motivated and it'll actually get you learning faster. So a lot of the things for me that I didn't do and the mistake that I made is I was very pigeonholed into what I thought I should learn. However, if I would have been on these different platforms, I could know what's out there, because when you're starting and you maybe haven't done a lot of research, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you may not know that. You might hear Python or JavaScript in one of these videos, but you don't know what it actually can do, or maybe about a specific library that helps do this or a specific thing that helps do that, right? So with that being said, join a community, get involved in the community, share what you're learning, and, you know, kind of network and be a community with these other developers and other people that are trying to learn. I didn't do that. I'm trying to do it now. So I'm trying to make up for lost time. Not really, but this is a great way to learn, because I don't know everything, even being in tech. I would say I can figure things out. That's how I see it. However, being around like-minded individuals, people that have been in the game longer than you, or maybe people that are, you know, just starting and that are maybe a level or two below you as far as like learning and knowledge, right? This next one is a little pro tip, all right? Let's go. Well, I'll give you 2 pro tips. So one of the best ways to kind of learn coding is modifying existing code. So this can be on GitHub, this can be wherever you can get your hands on some already existing code, and try to tweak it and make it more usable for your specific needs. That's pro tip number 1. If you aren't comfortable with maybe going full force and building something from scratch per se, try taking somebody else's code, download it off of, you know, GitHub on your local machine and say, okay, they built this and I want to change these things to it, right? Because it's going to force you to understand what they already have in order to make your changes and make it work the way you want it to. All right, so the second tip. Now, this tip will kind of supercharge your learning, and it is teach what you learn. If you notice anything, this guy's doing it. I actually also do this at my full-time 9 to 5. So, and I would agree that it literally is just the best way to really cement your concepts, because when you're talking to a junior or you're talking to somebody that's more entry level than you are, you have to be able to explain it in the simplest form, coding in the simplest form, in order to actually have that person understand and be able to do something with it or help you. So the person that helps me, I really have to make sure that I understand it to a deep degree when I go and teach her how to do it, right? Otherwise, she's gonna be confused because I'm not explaining it in the simplest form. This is a great way to actually understand what you are learning. Because if you can explain it like you're speaking to a 5th grader, then you probably understand it really, really well, all right? So learning to code isn't about being a genius. I'm not a genius. It's about building things with code, right? Pick a language, start small, stay consistent, and soon enough, you'll be writing real programs. If you found this helpful, go ahead and smash the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you want to see next on the channel. Love, peace, and chicken grease. I'm out.